As dawn broke, Ellis, a seasoned fisherman, pulled up his nets and found himself staring at an unexpected squirming mass among the day's catch. Amidst the glistening fish, a strange creature was entangled, unlike anything he'd seen before in his years at sea. With a mixture of awe and concern, he sped toward the shore, the creature's faint movements urging him on. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. When the local marine experts saw what he'd brought in, their astonishment was palpable. "What the?" he mumbled as he guided the net onto the boat. His eyes grew wide in shock as he realized there was something in his net that didn't belong there. "Ben, come to the deck, please." "ASAP," he said through his walkie-talkie to his captain. "What's up?" his captain asked skeptically. "Not one of those lobsters you're scared of again, huh?" Ellis couldn't hide his smile. "That was one time, and that fucker bit my finger," he defended himself. All right. Give me a second," Captain Ben said, and Ellis heard him messing around with the steering wheel. A little later, he saw Ben walking down the steps and in his direction, but as soon as he got a glimpse of the net, he stopped cold. "What the fuck is that, El?" Ben said. Ellis shrugged his shoulders. "I wanted to ask you the same, but I don't want to remove the net." The two of them stood frozen on deck, staring at the net. Suddenly, Ellis thought he saw something moving. "Oh no," he said as he shook his head. "Get your shit together, man. Let's call the police. They'll know what to do." Suddenly, something clicked, and Ellis knew there was not enough time to wait for the police. "Rush to shore," he yelled as he ran up the steps and burst through the door into the wheelhouse. Ben almost dropped his phone out of fright. "We don't have much time." Finally, Ben jumped behind the wheel and steered the boat back to the marina. Ellis's heart raced as he looked through the window at the net. They were almost at the marina, and Captain Ben ordered Ellis to go down to be ready for docking, but Ellis was almost too scared to be even a few meters close to the net. "Don't be such a wuss!" Captain Ben snapped at him. He could be such a jerk sometimes. Taking a deep breath, Ellis walked down the steps, but never took his eyes off the net. He saw the marina in the distance, and as soon as he was close enough to the dock, he jumped on to attach the ropes. Captain Ben came out of the wheelhouse, waving his hands in the air. "Nothing to see here." Curiosity turned to agitation as people jostled for a better look, their feet edging closer to the dock's edge. From the deck of a rusty trawler nearby, an old sailor with a weather-beaten face caught the crowd's attention. "Ever heard of the sirens of the deep?" he called out, his voice carrying over the noise. The crowd fell slightly quieter, drawn to his tales of mythical creatures that roamed beneath the waves, luring sailors to their doom. The old sailors' stories captivated the crowd, their faces lit by a mix of fear and fascination under the early morning sun. The mass of people grew, pressing in tighter. The net squirmed again, a reminder of the unknown they harbored. They edged closer, their bodies tensing as they prepared to face whatever came next, together. In a low huddle, Ellis and Ben whispered urgently. "We need to calm them down before this gets out of hand," Ellis muttered. Together, they started rearranging the deck, trying to redirect the crowd's attention from the mysterious creature. As the sirens blared, a Coast Guard cutter sliced through the water, pulling up sharply beside the dock. Their arrival snapped every head around, silencing the crowd as officers stepped onto the shore. With authoritative strides, they made their way towards Ellis and the net, their uniforms crisp against the chaotic backdrop of the gathered townspeople. Quickly and efficiently, the Coast Guard officers began to set up a perimeter. Unrolling ropes and setting down cones, they cordoned off the area around Ellis's boat. Their firm voices cut through the buzz of the crowd. "Please, step back for your safety." This action brought a temporary order as people shuffled back, murmurs of curiosity and concern rising among them. Officers moved through the crowd, their presence calming yet assertive. "We'll resolve this quicker with your cooperation." As the officers neared the boat, Ellis braced himself, his eyes darting from the officers to the net. As the authorities neared the boat, the mysterious net began to wriggle again, more vigorously this time. Ellis stepped back, his eyes locked on the shifting mass. Ben held his phone tightly against his ear, pacing near the cabin. "Yes, it's unlike anything we've seen before," he said, voice tense as he described the situation to a marine biologist. He gestured emphatically with his free hand, outlining the size and behavior of the creature entangled in the net. Ben snapped his phone shut and turned to face the crowd, raising his hands for attention. "Experts are on their way. Just hold steady," he announced loudly, his voice carrying over the murmurs. His gaze met Ellis's, a silent message passing between them to stay calm. Two marine biologists, gear in hand, strode confidently towards the boat. They set to work, carefully separating the tangled seaweed and flapping fish from the net. The crowd held its breath, their eyes locked on the biologist's every move. Suddenly, a fierce storm blew in, scattering the onlookers and whipping the marina into a frenzy. People shouted as they scurried for cover, clutching their hats and jackets against the violent gusts. Rain and wind hammered down relentlessly, blurring the view and soaking everyone on the dock. Amidst the storm's rage, a swatch of fabric became visible among the seaweed and fish in the net, catching the attention of the onlookers. The biologists, noticing the fabric, speculated aloud about its origins. Could this be something intentionally hidden? The biologists continued their careful examination, their hands steady despite the challenging conditions, trying to detangle the mysterious material without causing any damage. As the storm abated, the media descended upon the marina, turning the event into a spectacle. News vans parked haphazardly, and reporters with microphones in hand rushed towards the dock, their cameras hoisted on shoulders. Ellis and Ben coordinated with local police to maintain order as the crowd and media tensions rose. They set up temporary barriers and directed foot traffic, trying to keep the area around the net clear. The police officers spoke firmly to the onlookers and the press, ensuring that the biologists had enough space to continue their work without interference. Cameras flashed and live feeds rolled, broadcasting the unfolding scene to curious viewers everywhere. Reporters did stand-ups with the bustling dock in the background, speculating about the find. The glare of camera lights mixed with the late afternoon sun, casting long, dramatic shadows across the dock as the world watched, waiting for answers. Despite the chaos around them, the biologists continued their work, now under the glaring lights of media scrutiny. They handled each piece of seaweed and fabric with care, aware of the cameras capturing their every move. The pressure to uncover the truth was palpable, but they maintained their focus, methodically working to reveal the secrets of the tangled net. Ellis found himself dodging cameras and sidestepping eager reporters, uncomfortable with the sudden fame. He ducked behind crates and moved briskly along the dock, trying to avoid the intrusive lenses that seemed to follow every step he took. His usual quiet day at sea had turned into a chaotic media circus, and he was not enjoying the spotlight at all. Seeing Ellis's discomfort, Ben intervened, cursing at the media to give them some space. "Back off! Let us work!" he shouted, his face flushed with anger. His loud, commanding voice caught the reporters off guard, and for a moment, the clicking of cameras slowed. Ben stood firmly, his hands on his hips, protecting Ellis and the biologists from further intrusion. The media hesitantly backed off, turning their lenses towards the boat and the still-covered net instead. With Ben's stern warning echoing in their ears, they repositioned themselves to capture the scene without crowding the crew too closely. From a safer distance, they continued filming, their focus shifting to capture every detail of the ongoing examination from afar. The biologists were moments away from fully unveiling the net's contents. They worked with renewed urgency, aware of the cameras recording their every move and the eyes of the world watching. With precise movements, they removed the last bits of debris, their expressions serious and focused as they prepared to reveal the long-hidden mystery to the awaiting crowd. The anticipation built to a fever pitch as both the crowd at the marina and viewers at home watched eagerly. People leaned forward, their breaths held in suspense, waiting for the biologists to complete their task. Every small movement was met with gasps and whispers, the air thick with excitement and curiosity over what would soon be revealed. The biologists finally cleared enough debris to reveal a highly realistic mannequin, its features startlingly human-like. The crowd peered forward as the last pieces of seaweed fell away, exposing the mannequin dressed in a faded pirate costume. Cameras zoomed in on the unexpected find, capturing the intricately detailed prop that had caused all the morning's commotion. Laughter mixed with sighs of relief and disappointment rippled through the onlookers. Some chuckled over the absurdity of the situation, while others shook their heads, amused yet let down by the anticlimax. A few clapped in amusement, relieved that the mystery had been resolved without any real danger, but slightly disappointed at the mundane outcome. Ellis felt a flood of embarrassment and relief wash over him as he stood beside the revealed mannequin. He managed a sheepish grin, relieved that the sea monster was nothing more than a movie prop, but embarrassed by the frenzy it had sparked. He shrugged at the biologists, acknowledging the dramatic build-up to such an unthreatening conclusion. The crowd began to process that the sea monster was just a movie prop. Conversations bubbled up around the dock as people joked about the fearsome sea creature that had turned out to be a cinematic leftover. The biologists explained to curious onlookers that the mannequin was likely part of an abandoned film set, adding layers to the story. Tell us what you think about this story and share it with your friends. It might inspire them and brighten their day. If you enjoyed this story, you might like this one about a rich dad who was ashamed of his waiter son until one day he surprised him with his dedication to his work.